You're watching Car Babble, I'm Ewan, and this is the Ford Mondeo, the ST-Line Edition from 2019, and it's eco-blue diesel. And I love estates, and we would still have an estate if it wasn't for my wife wanting an SUV. But this one is a special one because it's the last estate that's diesel that Ford will probably ever make. This Mondeo was discontinued in 2022, so you can't actually buy it anymore. So this could be becoming a collector's item. But is it any good? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this car so you can decide whether or not, if you're looking for a mainstream estate brand, is this the one to go for as a used buy? So if you enjoy my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, buckle up and let's get into it. So this car has had a pretty good innings. It's been around since 2014, so it was due to be replaced. It's just a shame they're not actually replacing it with another Ford Mondeo estate, you know? Wagons and estates, whatever you want to call them, they're starting to really kind of be past their best now. Nobody seems to want them anymore. I don't really get it because I love estates. I would have one over an SUV any day for loads of reasons. But for some reason, they're just not selling. So they're getting rid of it and they're replacing it with some sort of ghastly car on stilts EV thing. So unfortunately, yeah, this was the end of the line for diesels. But briefly on specs, I'm going to focus on this one because this is the one I'm driving, and it's the ST-Line Edition in 2-litre turbocharged diesel form. And I think it's probably going to be the one that most people go for because it's diesel, so it's going to get good fuel economy, but it's also going to be the best blend of performance and economy, especially if you're going to be lugging around a heavy car with a family and loads of stuff in it. But just so you know, you get the Z-Tech, which is the basic model, and then there's the titanium, which builds on that, and then you get this ST-Line Edition, and then you get the Vignale, which is like a higher spec version of the ST-Line, and it gets a few more elegant touches on the outside, and it gets better seats and a few other things as well. But I'll leave a link to the specs in the comments because, yeah, there's no point in going through all of that with you. Let's focus on this car because I think this is the one to go for. But if you're buying a Mondeo as a family car, you're probably thinking, I need to get the estate because it's going to have a bigger boot. Actually not true. The saloon stroke hatchback opening the other one has is actually bigger on paper by 30 litres. So if you go for the estates, 525 litres with the seats up and 1630 with the seats down, which is still a decent low bay, but that's really quite interesting. I really don't know how they work these things out because I'm really struggling to see how that could possibly be bigger in the saloon. But anyway, apparently it is. And if you go for the hybrid, it's way less because the batteries are under the floor. It's like 130 litres less in the estate. So if you want to carry a lot of stuff about, don't get the hybrid. But the boot itself isn't too bad. It's got no load lip. You've got electric boot opening in the spec, which is cool, though it kind of juttered up and down quite unconvincingly, but that might be just because of the age of the car. You've got a space saver tyre underneath as well, so that's good and it's out of the way. A few tie down points, but it's a pretty basic boot in terms of, like, you know, cubbies and holding stuff in place and stuff. And then you've got 60/40 split folding seats, which is not the most versatile. So if you've got a couple of kids in the back and you want to go IKEA and they're in their child seats, you know, you want to put the middle seat down, you don't really have that option. But you've got a ski hatch though, which is like this size. I'm like, what is actually going through there? I would love to do a survey of people that own Mondeos and be like, do you have skis and do you put them through that tiny hole? I'm willing to bet almost nobody uses it for that. It's just useless as far as I can see. But this one does have a parcel shelf, but the owner took it out, so I don't actually have that to show you. But you will notice that there is actually a bike rack on the roof, and yeah, I just didn't have the heart to ask the owner when I was getting their car to take it off basically for my video. So yeah, but it's really authentic as a family car when it's on, isn't it? So yeah, the boot is decent, but there's a lot bigger out there. It's really spacious and comfortable back here. I can't actually believe how much space there is. It's almost like a Skoda Superb actually. Knee room's fantastic. Seats in my driving position, I'm 5'9", and that is really good. Toe room's good too, so you can really stretch out. Headroom's not bad, even with this pan roof, which does eat into headspace, but yeah, people over 6 foot will just about be okay. And it's wide enough for 3 people to sit back here. Our 2 seats are more comfortable and the middle one's raised up a bit, but there's not much of a transmission tunnel, surprisingly, so 3 sets of legs won't be too bad for longer journeys. You've also got Isofix in there, 2 seats, but they're easy to get to, so that's the important thing to say. And the elbow points for resting, that is really soft and squidgy in the middle. You've also got 2 fairly shallow but adaptive cup holders, so that's good. And then you've got an elbow card that's soft enough, and yeah, the door bins are a bit of a fail though. They're really small, plasticky, things will rattle about, not very good shape, so that's not so good. You've got pockets in the back of the seats, but you've also got heated rear seats back here and air vents, and you've also got a 3-pin and another charge point for, you know, like a cigarette charge point. So yeah, there's really good connectivity for, yeah, plugging devices in, at least to charge them back here. And you've also got sun blinds, which is really good to see. So I really like it back here. Now this car's a bit of a mixed bag on quality, and I don't want to be too harsh because it's a 2014 car technically. And I think back then it probably looked amazing, but it's definitely showing its age, and that's fine. But there's just a few areas where I'm like, okay, they cheaped out a little bit, but they're not mostly things that bother me too much. But the steering wheel isn't the best. It's a really thin steering wheel, and I'm like putting my fingers around it like that. It's not a BMW steering wheel. It's not chunky and nice to hold, and the material doesn't feel very nice, and that's a major touch point. So I always think if you're going to make something feel nice, make it the seats and the steering wheel, because they're the things that people are going to notice the most. And yeah, that isn't great. Buttons on the steering wheel are very plasticky as well, and not very nicely damped either are the indicator stalks. Door close, solid enough. It's not too bad actually. So that side of things okay, and things don't move about much. It's fairly well built, but it's just feeling a little bit cheap in some areas. The touch points up here on the door are all right, but you don't really touch them. Elbow point, not very soft there actually. Softer in the back, which is a real shame, because I'm like, well, I'm going to be driving the car more than I'm going to be sitting in the back, so I'd rather you'd give me the soft one here or both. And the one on the door is a little bit softer, so that's okay. But you can't move this forward and back or up and down, so it's not great for, like, you know, putting your elbow on whilst you're holding the steering wheel. Driving position's really good. It's pretty square. And the seats though, yeah, they're okay. Like I say, if you go for the Vignale, you get better seats, but these are soft enough, but you don't have like thigh extensions, and yeah, you kind of feel like you're sitting on them, not in them. Not a lot of side support either, but this isn't a really sporty car, so you're not gonna be flinging it about too much to be too worried about that. But you do have electric adjustment on both seats, which is great, and this side's got 3-position memory, and they've got lumbar support, 2-position on both sides, and the lumbar support feels really robust. So I do think ergonomically it's quite good, but it's just not the best seat it could be. But the Cubbies in this car are the bomb. Under this center console, it's like floating, you could say. There's a big area here for a phone at the back. Get some coins in there. You've got a USB port and a 12 volt, and then you've got a little recess for your key. And something that could be an issue is there's some piano black around here, and normally I don't like piano black, but I think it works in this car from a style point of view, but it will scratch and smudge quite a lot. And the fact is, if you're putting your keys there, yeah, you're going to bash it a lot, which is going to scratch it even more. But that's a great little bit for your keys. You've got 2 big cup holders, one's a bit deeper than the other, and yeah, for a bolt like this, holds it absolutely great. Good position for it as well, but if you've got really short coffee cups, that might be an issue. But yeah, they're adaptive, and that's a really good set of cup holders in my opinion. You've also got the center bit, and if you click the right side, you lift it up, you get a little coin tray, and it's felt lined, which is cool. Go to the other side, and you get a much deeper bit. There's a USB in there, and you'll fit loads of stuff in there. The glove box, it's amazing. That's one of the biggest glove boxes I've ever seen, and it's got 2 levels, which is great. You've got a shelf for your manual and your wheel nut, and then below that you put all your other stuff in it. And it's like, well, why don't a lot of cars do that? Because quite often the manual takes up the whole glove box, so that's great. I just wish the felt lining was carried over to the door bins, because you don't get any in the door bins, but they're quite big at least. Yeah, you get some stuff in there, which is cool. Sunglasses holder as well. So I'm really impressed with the Cubbies. But let's talk about the center console a bit more, because you've got a rotary gear knob, and not a fan of those, I have to say. I do like a gear stick, 'cause it's just a bit more feelsome when you would do a quick maneuver. I don't like buttons either, and my Santa Fe's got buttons and you're like whack-a-mole sometimes. But this rotary thing, again, you've got to look down to make sure you're clicking the right one, and it's just overly complicated. It looks minimalist, but I just don't like it as a type of gearbox control solution. Something else I noticed when I was driving the car was, if you go into sport mode, you press a button in the middle, and then if you want to make another maneuver, like you need to reverse, it kicks you out of sport mode to do whatever you're doing. So you basically have to press sport mode again to get it back on. I'm like, why can't you just like still be in sport mode? I'm like, I don't want to have to keep pressing sport mode every time I, you know, have to make another maneuver. If I want to be in sport mode, just leave me in sport mode, please. But yeah, this whole center bit is very dated looking, but I actually find it very functional. Got loads of buttons, including a button for your heated windscreen. Love it. One of the best features of any car ever. Volvo have it as well. But yeah, you've got loads of buttons here, so you don't need to use the touchscreen much, and I'm all about having the options to control things different ways. But you've got a massive dial in the middle for your volume, so that's great. And you've got a CD player, because we all need CD players. But this infotainment system, it's a touchscreen, it's a reasonable size. I just don't like the angle of it. It's like angling up that way, and it might be a case for the facing away from the driver. Police as well, I can't quite tell if it's just like dead center or if it's facing towards the passenger, i.e. they've cheaped out for the right-hand drive market, like I've said in other videos, and that really gets on my nerves. I can't really tell. I sat in the passenger seat and I was unconvinced. It's definitely not facing the driver, which would be much more engaging, and that annoys me, but I just don't like the angle of it in general. It's not particularly colourful, but it's reasonably responsive when you press the buttons and flick about. I don't find it really bad to use. It's not the most intuitive system, but it's not too bad, and you've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So yeah, overall I think it's a reasonably good system, and the fact that you've got CarPlay is the main thing that matters, because you know you can circumvent the main interface, and also it'll keep it feeling fresher for longer. So that is great from a used by perspective. Cockpit, not too bad. It's actually reasonably colourful, and it's kind of a mix of digital and analog. And yeah, you've got all your trip information. You've got a digital speedo, which is pretty much the only thing I ever care about having. And yeah, it looks all right. I think it does the job. Looks sporty enough, and all the information you really need's there. So when I review cars, I always ask the owner for a bit of a report beforehand, find out the good, the bad, because I think it's important to share that feedback with you. Even if it's things I can't personally verify, I'd rather pass on that information for you, and you know it's still hopefully useful for you. But she's had no issues with this car. Reliability's been really good, and it's basically not really missed a beat, although there is an engine warning light on at the moment, which is a bit awkward, but we don't really know why that is, so just pretend you didn't see that. But that aside, the only thing that she said was a little bit hit and miss was the high beam assist. So it has got that. It's got nice LED daytime running lights and LED headlights, but at night, yeah, they're not always that reliable at dipping their beam quick enough, and so she ends up doing it manually. And again, I really always find that annoying when a car has a feature that it says it does something and it just doesn't really do it enough reliably. You know, it's like that has to either work all the time or none of the time, otherwise you're just not going to use it. So that's the one thing she said isn't great. So this 190 ecoblue diesel, and you can get it with all-wheel drive, but this is the front-wheel drive one, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 8.6 seconds, and it's got 187 brake horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque. When I took it out on the road, the thing I really noticed was that the performance wasn't amazing, but there was a lot of low-down torque, and in some situations that can be good, but I didn't feel like the power delivery was particularly linear. And so when you put a bit of throttle down, like, you know, you're driving through like a built up area, you put a little bit of throttle down, it seemed to really want to accelerate quickly, and it was sometimes a little bit like, oh, slow down there, you know. And then when I had it out in the open road, when I put my foot down, I didn't feel like it had much puff further up the rev range, you know, so I didn't really feel like it was a particularly linear car for that. You could still overtake comfortably, and that's really all that matters. It's got enough performance to be able to comfortably do that and carry a heavy car at the same time. But certainly I've seen a lot quicker diesel 2-litre engines than this. I mean, this is an older car though as well. Again, this one's got 50,000 on the clock, and there's an engine warning light on, so we don't really know exactly what the issue is, but I just didn't think it was as quick as other 2-litre diesels of the same size of car that I've driven, but it was still quick enough. But do the sporty characteristics extend past the looks? No, I didn't really find it particularly great to drive, but I wasn't expecting it to be. It's a family load lugger. It's meant to look sporty. It's got 19-inch wheels, but it definitely wasn't a car I was like, oh yeah, let's get around these corners faster, you know. The steering it's very light, and that'll be great for around town, but luckily when you put it into sport mode, it does get a bit stiffer, and obviously the throttle response changes as well. So it is a bit more sprightly in every category in sport mode, so that is good, and it definitely felt a bit sharper. So definitely on a country road, put it in a sport mode and it will be a more enjoyable experience. But overall, I just didn't think it was like a driver's car. One thing though, and it could be the tires, but I did think that there was a little bit of lack of traction at points when I was turning corners and stuff. I just felt a bit like, if it was wet conditions, I mean, it's raining now, but it wasn't when I drove it earlier, that it would, you know, I wouldn't have as much confidence. It just didn't feel like traction was that fantastic, so I don't really know why that is, but yeah, certainly you can get an all-wheel drive one as well, which would probably help with that. But the suspension was acceptable. It was a little bit firm and a little bit fidgety at points on these 19s, but they look really great, those alloys though, don't they? But yeah, it wasn't uncomfortable, and so you could definitely get away with driving this on bad roads and not feel like you're getting booed up the arse. Refinement though was blimmin' good. I really found the cabin kept quite quiet. Loud rattly diesel engine at idle, but out on the road I was like, this is really quiet in here, this is well insulated, and it felt like a nice refined experience. So that is a really good thing to have in a mainstream brand. You expect that from premium brands, but yeah, this one really delivered on that. Visibility around the car is excellent, and it's great. You've got this pan roof in this spec as well. I think this is an option actually, but it's gives a lot more light in the cabin. But yeah, blind spots, fine, and the wing mirrors are all right. Decent sized one in the car, although it's got a bit of a bezel around it, but overall visibility is decent. Now this has the Euro 6 diesel engine, so the ULEZ police are not going to be out to get you quite yet, thankfully. But the fuel economy you should get with this thing combined is like 53-ish mpgs. Trip computer here saying just under 40. I don't know over what time period that is, and I don't really know how the owner drives this car. She maybe loves to just cut loose on a country road a lot, I don't know, but certainly over long journeys you probably be getting near 50. And yeah, it's a diesel, so you should get decent miles out of it if it's got a big enough fuel tank, and this one does, 60 litres, so you can go a long distance with this and not have to worry about going to fill up or charging it or all that sort of stuff. And that is definitely where, if you do long cross-country family trips, a diesel still has its place. Something else, this has got the upgraded 12 speaker sound system. It's all right, I've heard better. You'll definitely get a better sound system out of the Mazda 6 Tourer, maybe not the Toyota Corolla. Their JBL upgraded sound system is pretty ding. The Canton system in the Skoda is all right. Haven't heard the Passat's one, so yeah, not sure about that one, but certainly it's a little bit better. But the sound system in this is nothing compared to the likes of a Volvo's. So the pricing in this car, when we're talking used pricing, obviously, because you can't buy new anymore, but if you bought one with between 10 and like 70,000 miles on the clock, and we're talking about this post facelift from 2019 onwards, you're going to be anywhere from like 20 to 28 grand, but it's not depreciating that badly. And I looked at the valuation of this car over the last few years, and it's gone up and down a bit, but overall it's only dropped by about 3 grand. So yeah, I mean, obviously car prices are just totally abnormal at the moment anyway, but I think that's quite good. It's held its value quite well, and I think, and this is a theory I've got, but because this is a car that's been discontinued, it might hold its value particularly well because you're not able to get it anymore. And some people will always just be like, I'm a Mondeo man, I want a Mondeo, you know? So that could be a reason why if you buy one of these, it could actually be a good, I'm not saying an investment, but it might be something that you might actually not see depreciate all that much to a point. So about those rivals, yeah, how does it stack up against them? Well, if you want the driver's mainstream kind of brand estate, the Mazda 6 Tourer might be the one to go for, or the Passat maybe. But if you want space in the boot, the Passat or the Skoda Superb are going to be the best. If you want a really good estate hybrid, I would probably go for the Toyota Corolla, because Toyota just do the best hybrids, everybody knows that. And the hybrid train in the Ford Mondeo doesn't get amazing reviews, so yeah, I would say that's probably the one to go for in that case. In terms of tech, all those other cars except a Mazda have newer tech and are newer cars, so if infotainment stuff is what you want, probably look at those. But if you want a spacious cabin, I don't think it's going to get much better than this, particularly up front. It really does feel like you've got loads of space in here, and they do practicality well in a lot of areas. And if you want decent backseat space, yeah, the Superb's going to be great, the Passat's going to be great, but so is blooming this. But would I buy this car if I was looking for a mainstream brand used estate? Probably not, mainly because a lot of its rivals have bigger boots, and if I want an estate, I want the biggest boot possible for ramming loads of crap in it and getting me and my mates golf clubs in it, but that's personal preference. But other ones that are slightly newer cars that didn't, you know, come out as early as 2014 will still be around the same price point, and for that reason I would pick them. But there's something charming about this car, and it's got a great big cabin, and so if your main thing is to cart people about, big people, then this is definitely a car that will really enjoy doing that in, and so that is definitely something to bear in mind. But I'm interested to see what Ford bring out next to replace this. But yeah, RIP to the Mondeo. Anyway, if you enjoyed my video, please do give it a like and drop me a comment below with your thoughts on it, and don't forget to subscribe because there's loads more coming up on the channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.